Welcome to Soundproof, where your host Shari Pine takes you backstage, down front, and behind the scenes for a look at some of entertainment's hottest musicians, producers, engineers, and other people out there on the scene today. And now, here's your host, that cool chick on a hot mic, Shari Pine.
Welcome back to Soundproof, everybody. I'm still your host, Shari Pine, and today's hair has been brought to you by what the heck happened. Anyway, that music that you hear at the top of every episode, by the way, is my my original tune Superman off my Superman record, available where all fine music is bought, sold, traded, download, streamed, pirated. So it makes a great stocking stuffer. So get the hell out and do it. Anyway, that's enough about me. Actually, it's never enough about me. I could do a whole show about me, right? But I just haven't figured out how to interview myself. But anyway, today's episode really is going to break the internet because the individual who I'll agree to be my guest, thank you, is, well, this person is, he's a wonder to me. And I could do things off script and ad lib, but I really, his reputation precedes him. But I still have to read from the script here because his credentials are just like off the chain. Let me say, without saying his name first, that this individual is a drummer. And he is a Broadway star, a Broadway drummer. That means, for all of those of you out there who might not be aware, he's in the pit, or maybe according to the stage set, he's up on the stage. Like, you know, I guess I'm thinking classical music where they call it the pit, but maybe he's not in the pit. He'll talk to us about that. I'm sure he's everywhere on that stage and in multiple shows. But first, I would like to say that he is a proud father, which today, with all of this social media hype at its height, for a gentleman to put that as first on, I guess, just an impersonal kind of resume, speaks to us, right? This man is a proud father first. This guy's a Broadway star, but he's a proud father, he says first. Okay, so that could be an entirely other episode, but hopefully we'll get into that. He is the drummer on the hit Broadway show, Ain't Too Proud. Okay, that, in case you haven't heard, is about the Temptations, I believe. That hit song, Ain't Too Proud to Beg, but Ain't Too Proud ran and is still running, I believe, on Broadway. It's been like, I don't know how many years. A long time. He hosts his own Broadway drumming podcast, which is called Broadway Drumming 101 podcast. He has played on and off Broadway, and I'm reading from this, folks. I know you can see, because you can't get this wrong. This is like really important stuff. He has been in musicals, including Tick, Tick, Boom, Altar Boys, Memphis, the musical. Remember that one? Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. He's worked on Footloose, the Broadway show, Motown, the Broadway show, The Color Purple, Broadway show, Rent, don't even have to mention it, Little Shop of Horrors, SpongeBob and SquarePants, the musical Evita, Cats, okay, Cats, Avenue Q. He is the founder and publisher of social and political commentary newsletter. I'm not even going to mention it. I'll let him mention it because maybe I wasn't supposed to mention it. Anyway, without further ado, I ramble, but I'm very proud because I personally know the man, and he has been gracious enough to play with me and play music with me. Clayton Craddock, give it up.
That's quite an introduction. Thank you very much, Shari Pine.
Oh, can you hear the track? It's clapping. Woo! No, thank you, Mr. Clayton Craddock.
Nice to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time, and I'm glad to reconnect with you.
Oh, well, God bless you. Thank you, Clayton. I hope you didn't mind that no, I don't think that you would mind, but I would love to, and I'm sure viewers and listeners out there would love to just hear you talk about how wonderful fatherhood is. Challenging, wonderful, pride filling. Is that even
You
a
know,
word?
yeah, I guess so. Pride filling. I like that. We're going to be filling people with pride today. Anyway, I got my wisdom teeth taken out yesterday, as I told you before we started recording. I got two of them taken out. I have all four of them. Now I have two. And during the preparation for the extraction, they asked me if I'm taking any medication. And I told them I'm taking levothyroxine, which is basically replaces my thyroid. And the reason why I had to get that done, this is a long story, but I'll tell you how it all relates to fatherhood. I got it done. I got it replaced because I had elevated levels of my thyroid gland was producing too much. So I had hyperthyroidism.
Hmm.
So I had my thyroid replaced with a radioactive iodine pill. Now, this pill that, it has the skull and crossbones and the radioactive sign on it and like atomic bombs and stuff. And I take it.
Was that before or after the amnesia? I mean, what do you call that? This.
Well, I took the radioactive iodine pill in 2003. It was like is April 2003, I think. And that was a couple of months after my daughter was born. And I remember having to stay away from them or stay away from my ex-wife and my daughter because I was just basically emitting
Radioactive.
radioactive isotopes, whatever the hell it is. I was
Whoa.
radioactive.
Whoa.
So I remember that because they mentioned it, because I had to mention that I had to take the radioactive iodine pill. And that was 2003. And that was almost 19 years ago. My daughter is going to be 19 in January. And I've had 19 very interesting and pride-filled years of fatherhood. And my son was born in 2007. I was about to say 2017. He was born in 2007. And, I've just enjoyed every single minute of it. They're growing. My son is in high school. My daughter is in her first year of culinary school. So it's a fantastic experience. But there are things that come with being married and having kids, and things don't go right. That's where my things turned around for me in 2008. Well, actually, it was in 2007 when my ex-wife filed for divorce. And again, as we say on some podcasts, that's a whole other podcast. Yeah, that could be a whole other podcast as far as my experience in family court. But yes, I love my kids. That's a long-winded way of saying I love my kids. It's been almost 19 years, and I don't regret anything I've ever done over these past 19 years.
I mean, you look like you're only 25. So how could you have a 19-year-old?
Yeah, I started young. No,
Which
I'm
is
actually
also another podcast.
no,
Well,
I'm an
then
old
don't say
man.
out there.
I'm an old man. You can tell by the wisdom in my whiskers here.
Oh, well, I never thought that I was going to have a podcast about wisdom teeth and wisdom, but
Wisdom
here we are.
whiskers and
Wisdom, whiskers, and wit, wisdom, and whiskers. Hey, Nick, you got to write that down. Wit, wisdom, and whiskers.
yes.
And so then let's jump in, if we can, to I've always admired your tastes in music. Now, we know Broadway is a certain genre, and even within that, there's all kinds of shows and writers of these Broadway musicals. But you really have really well-rounded taste in music when I would see you playing, and I think we played a couple of gigs together also, I mean, you could play everything. So what is it like about, is it reading? It's just like wanting to just be able to be versatile on different gigs, or it truly was just that you could play everything? And in particular, for all the drum heads out there, which I am not, but I just try to pretend to be, the the groove, like the style. So your style, your education, your taste. Back to you.
Well, I grew up in the 70s. I was born in 1966, but I grew up in the 70s, excuse me, with a eclectic variety of music that was presented to me. My sister, who was 4 years older, was into Elton John, Kiss, Aerosmith, as well as Parliament.
Oh, I'd like to
And
meet
then,
her. Kiss
and
and Parliament Funk.
exactly, they're the flip side of the same thing. Elaborate stage show, and so in I remember I don't know if it was 78, 77. I went to go to a Parliament Funkadelic concert. I was like 10, 11 years old. And back then, they turn off the lights, and all of a sudden you see a lot of the lighters come on because everyone started smoking weed. I just remember sitting there. I was 10 or 11 years old. I remember seeing the joint come down the row.
I didn't know that that's why they did this, because now they do this.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So I just remember being so high. I don't even remember the concert. I was gone. But I just remember people on stage wearing a diaper. There was a bunch of people on stage, and the spaceship comes
Oh, the
through the
diaper, that was
arena.
Bootsy?
No, that was Gary Scheider, who was one of the guitarists and one of the
I thought Bootsy was.
songwriters. Bootsy opened up the show. He was the second act, I think. He had the star bass. But anyway, growing up on Parliament, Elton John, Kiss, the Jackson 5. My mother used to listen to Al Green and Teddy Pendergrass. And then my older sister is 2 years older than me. And she used to be into Prince. And but it was like 1980 when I started to have my own sense of what I really liked. And I found this album by a group called Cameo. And I was basically hooked on. I mean, I was into funk at that time. I was into Slave and of course P-Funk, but it was
Wait,
1980 when
Cameo was the one that did "ow" like that.
Word Up. Yes, Word Up.
You got
But
that? Can you play that?
but they had a bunch of different hits before that, and then of course in 1979 there was this song that came out when they were just talking over the record for 15 minutes. I remember going to middle school and writing down the lyrics to Rapper's Delight, and everyone was just, it had taken over. And that began my love for hip hop. So you got P-Funk, you got Elton John, you got Kiss, you got Aerosmith, you have Prince, you have rap music. Then my cousin was into heavy metal music, and he introduced me to Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. Then I discovered Rush. I'm like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing. So I just
how do you reconcile? I mean, do you ever have to? How do you reconcile Iron Maiden and, I mean, okay, Iron Maiden and Prince, but Iron Maiden and Jackson 5 or Rapper's Delight and Iron Maiden?
It was just a big gumbo of music, and I just loved it all. There were just things about it all that I loved, and I still love to this day. Even today's music, metal music, is just a bunch of Cookie Monster singing double bass, really fast stuff. It's cool for a minute for me because I'm a little older. I was like, okay, I can only take only but so much of that. I like music that has melody. I like music that has groove. I like music that makes people dance and
Well, excuse
clap.
me. So So, but the metal of yesteryear is definitely not the metal of today. I'm not a metalhead, but I
Hmm.
know that Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and them, like that, they don't. There is no today is like death metal. I don't even
Yes.
know how do you what's the difference between today's if they're. I
Yeah.
don't even think people are making that kind of music. They're just jumping off buildings. They're getting to the point.
Yeah, it's for some reason a lot of today's music from a lot of young people is very low vibration music. It's very low energy. Not low energy as in speed, but again, I'm 55. I'm not really the music today is not really geared for me. Just like today's rap music, I can't stand trap music. I will say that publicly. I hate trap music. But it's not
You heard it here, folks. Thank you for joining us.
but it's not made for me. So, just like I'm sure when Public Enemy came out in 1986, people were like, "What the hell is this?" I mean, it's just noise. But I
So
loved
is
it.
it all relative? It's all relative. We're saturated, our formative years, we grow, we're teenagers, we're young adults, and we're saturated with a certain sound, and that evolves but sort of creeps up on us, and taste in art the same. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're older, and it's been like a generation of like other music, and then now we finally hear it, and it's like our ears trained back when. But so is it us, we're not catching up, or really this music is crap?
That's a good question. It might be a little bit of both. But there are some trap songs that I'd say, yeah, that's cool because when you hear it in the club, it's just like, people dance to it and it's like, okay, I get it. But, punk music was not cool to people that listen to Led Zeppelin. They're like, what is this stuff? There's only 3 chords. It sucks. But then you had the Clash who took punk music and made it a little more accessible, and but
Yeah.
they expanded on the punk thing, and then you had the Police, which started from the whole punk scene, but they made melodic music, but they moved it to a different level. But I just think,
And
man,
now the Police seem like, kindergarten compared to what's
right?
going on today.
I think that things evolve, styles evolve, like you talked about fashion and art. Uh, it's just whatever is relevant for the times. That's just what it is, and take what you like and leave the rest.
Hmm. And so on your gigs then, let's segue into that. So Clayton had all of this musical gumbo at his disposal. And how did that form, maybe dumb question. Obviously it, plays a part in someone's style and, how they wind up playing. But what about like the rudiments? So how did your formal training, if any, maybe you're self-taught like many people I'm talking to, um, come into play?
Well, I started taking lessons in middle school, and just like a lot of the drummers that I interview on my podcast, Broadway Drumming 101, they started out on a practice pad, and you just had the practice pad for months, and you'd learn the rudiments, and you're like, I just want to play that drum set right there. And the drum teacher was like, no, you're not ready yet. And I learned all that stuff and then applied it to the drum set. But all of the influences that I had, um, I think those musical influences helped develop my style, which is basically I'm not a flamboyant musician. I like to play for the music, and I like to make sure that other people on the bandstand are comfortable. Of course, the singer like yourself is comfortable, because you have to, you're the front of whatever ensemble that is on stage. So you have to put your best out there. So I'm just supporting everyone else.
I've always said the singer is only as good as the band behind her or him.
Yes, it's true. And that's how I feel about playing on shows. It's the same concept. I have all of these musical influences, whether it's, again, Kiss, Aerosmith, Elton John, Parliament. Uh, and then, of course, I went to college and I learned all about jazz, and I learned about Miles Davis and Art Blakey and Tony Williams, who's my all-time favorite drummer. So all those influences helped form a basis. So when I sub at Cats, I could play certain things. I could sub at Evita and play certain and fit comfortably there, or I can play in my show Memphis the Musical, which is basically, David Bryan, who wrote the music. He's from Bon Jovi, so I know where he's coming from. You have
Yeah.
Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill, so I've studied the jazz thing, so I know it's 1959 jazz, so I can play that. And if I'm playing Ain't Too Proud, stuff that I listened to when I was a youngster, I understand the Motown sound, and I understand early 70s music, which is really where the show winds up in like 1972, 1973. I have a basis for that too. So everything that I grew up listening to, I can apply in various settings. And when I'm playing with you, when we played blues gigs, I learned all that stuff too. But I learned a lot of that stuff when I was about to graduate college. And I graduated and I stayed in DC and I worked with this guy named Daryl Davis, and we'd play a lot of blues, and I learned all different styles of blues. And so when I got to New York, I was able to use that to play with certain people and playing at Terra Blues and those kind of venues there.
Yeah.
So
Back to the, excuse me. So back to Broadway. How in all of those musical styles across all of those shows, how flexible did the maestro allow you to be? Did you have to play, like, is the musical score written down to the note, even the drums, and you can't deviate at all? Or you say, okay, this is R&B, Motown 70s, so I'm just gonna, I know these tunes. I mean, could Clayton put his own stamp on, on all the shows?
That's another great question.
Oh.
It's funny, I asked these questions to other people, but it's funny you're asking me. It's great. So as far as putting your own stamp on a show, you can do that if you are originating the show from the I guess kind of from its inception. When you do a reading or a workshop, which is basically having the actors sit around and read the script, and then you're sitting with the pianist, the music director of the show, and you're coming up with the drum parts, you can put your stamp on it to a certain degree because you're there creating the drum part. But if you come into a show and the show has done an out-of-town run and it's just coming to Broadway and they're like, we need a drummer to play this show, you're basically reading the music that's already written, and you can add things here or there, but pretty much you're going to do what they ask you to do. But they know that since they hired you, you know how to approach the music in an authentic fashion. So that's, I guess, hopefully I explained it.
You ever get there like, screw it, it's the end number, I'm gonna go off.
Sometimes you can do that. There are times here or there where you can put your own spin on things, and you don't necessarily do the exact same show the exact same way. There are like 4 measures here. You can do whatever solo you want. There's a measure here. You can do anything you want. But for the most part, you want to do the same show every night.
Yeah. Let's play a fun little game. Let's do some rapid fire questions. So just about your shows. And maybe so I'll name a show and you give maybe like 3 or 4, or 5 words that come to your mind that describe it. Not trying to incriminate anyone here. Let's just have some fun. So are you down with that?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so for starters, tick tick boom.
Naive, green, exciting, interesting.
Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill.
Intrigued, overwhelmed, starstruck, fun.
Yes.
I'm just using 4 words. I don't know if that's
you can use, like, you want to use 47 words? I'll let you go. I'll let you really play by the book, because I would do rapid fire to other people and they would still be going on and on and on and on. And then, we had to end the show. So, and we didn't even get past question 1. So if you need to put in more, do so, please, by all means. The color purple.
I was a sub there. I subbed for a drummer named Buddy Williams. Fantastic drummer. Learned a lot. Well, I subbed at both Color Purples, actually. There were two of them. I'll just make this real brief. The first one, Buddy Williams was the drummer. He's played on millions of records. And the second one, I subbed for Jared Schoenig, another amazing drummer. And uh, both times they were fantastic, and the grooves are just amazing on those shows.
Uh-huh. Okay. And for those of you who aren't familiar, subbing means your substitute. So the guy who has the main gig or the girl or whoever, they can't do it because they're going to go off on the tour bus with Bon Jovi now and do stadiums or whatever, or they're just going to like do a recording in their home studio because they just feel like it. They call people to come in and sub, and that's how you actually get a long-standing gig because maybe they don't come back. And with that, SpongeBob and SquarePants.
Oh my God, that was so much fun. That's another example because of having an eclectic foundation. Songs in that show were written by, again, Aerosmith. Oh my God, I can't remember the names of the artists, but it was all pop artists, and they had original songs in that show, and you had to know how to play those different styles. But the show was so much fun, so much fun. I love that show. It's sad that it closed too early.
Ah,
I was a sub for that show too, by the way. That was not my show.
oh, well, I mean, I guess I guess it's some kind of rite of passage within Broadway speak that you have to announce if you're a sub or the original or whatever, or if it's your mainstay gig. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you're in the door, you're there. I mean, sub or not.
Just to let people know, the shows that I had the drum chair for were Tick Tick Boom, Altar Boys, Memphis the Musical, Lady Day at Empson's Bar and Grill, and Ain't Too Proud: The Life and Times of the Temptations, which is the show that I'm on right now. But all the other shows I was a sub on. But yeah, if you're becoming a substitute drummer, which is what Shari talked about, most people that come into the whole Broadway scene do so under those conditions where you're a substitute for the main person, and that leads you to your own show after a while. If you're good at doing that and people know that you can do the job, then you're basically kind of into the Broadway community. And it's a pretty small community, but people are very supportive of one another.
But not so with vocalists. Ain't nobody gonna sub. She's got to have her throat slit before you get to sub.
Yeah, as far as the actors, that's the whole, you have to be part of the cast in order to be in the show. But as far as musicians are concerned, you just get in by subbing in.
Let me ask you two. Yeah.
Good. Or other ways.
I was just going to okay, thank you. I was going to ask you about Evita. Evita, now that's classic. That's a real classic.
Yes, and I was so excited.
Actually, no, I'm thinking of Les Mis. Why am I confusing? Because they're both Andrew Lloyd Webber. Is that it?
That's correct. You are correct. They're both interesting shows. It's funny you say that because both of those shows, the original drummer was Bill Lanham, and he did Les Mis for 12 years, and he was doing Evita, and I was subbing for him, and I was like, oh my God, this is so difficult. This is totally out of my wheelhouse. This is like classic Broadway. I don't know anything about Broadway, but I learned it, and there was a song called "And the Money Kept Rolling In," and it was in the time signature of 7/8. And then I realized that I can play 7/8. You know why? Because I played Tom Sawyer 1.5 million times in the
Rush.
By Rush. Tom
Neil
Sawyer
Peart.
by Rush has a section in that song which is in 7/8, and I know how to play it because I've studied that part over and over again. So I was like, wait a minute, this sounds just like, it doesn't sound just like Tom Sawyer, but the groove is like that. And I was like, okay, let me just use that concept and apply it to this, and it was so much fun.
Amazing. Let's jump now then back to that. Great segue. Thank you, by the way. So we were talking about Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers, right? But we were talking also about, so how would Neil Peart of Rush and all those like, progressive time signatures and whatever you would call him, I don't know, I'm trying to keep up here, measure up to like a jazz head Art Blakey or any of those guys, Jack DeJohnette. Who else is on drums? Clayton
Billy
Craddock.
I think it's all interesting, and I think it's all, I don't know if the right word is equal, but it's all relevant. If you like Art Blakey for what his style is, or what Tony Williams was doing with Miles, or with the Lifetime group in the 70s, or Neil Peart in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, is that how you pronounce his name? I was saying Peart. Is it Peart?
It's Peart, actually. Yeah.
How do you spell that?
Peart. He actually pronounces it Peart. I actually heard him say it on a YouTube.
He must be Canadian.
Yes, he is.
Oh,
it's funny. How'd you
it's
make that?
It's not Peart, it's Peart. Wow. Oh.
Wow, that's so funny.
For those of you who don't know, he's no longer with us. Rest in peace, Neil Peart. He was like among the first of them to go, and then like Eddie Van Halen went, and like everybody.
Yeah.
So Neil Peart.
All of that, high level of drumming, or just in music in general, I just appreciate very well made, interesting, eclectic music. And I think it's all good to me, except for trap music.
We're going to get to that. I'm going to write that down. Next episode is with Clayton Craddock, Broadway star, and his passion and hatred for trap music. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Let me do the same thing with drummers. We did some rapid fire with shows. I want to ask some rapid fire with drummers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Steve Gadd.
Top of the heap.
Oh, really?
Well, for most people that play drums.
Well, you hesitated, so I was like, oh my God, he hates him.
No. My favorite drummer of all time is Tony Williams, but you can't deny.
Wasn't he a singer?
Tony. Andy.
Oh wait, that's Andy Williams, Tony Bennett. Sorry.
Yes. But Steve Gadd is just, is just a legend. He's done so many great things. His style is
Curdy.
Same. Another legend. Done so many great things. Right next to the top of the heap. Right, they're neck and neck. Next.
Who's from that the Neville Brothers? Mean Joe Green. Who was the Neville Brothers drummer? Philly Joe.
I can't remember his name.
Oh, he must not have been. Okay, next. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I like the drummer a lot from the Meters, Zigaboo Modaliste.
Oh, the Meters. Yeah. What's that amazing song that? Oh,
yes.
What's that song?
Sissy Strut.
Oh, Sissy Strut.
Yes, fantastic. Actually, I met him once when I was in Berkeley, California, working on Ain't Too Proud, and he was a real laid back guy, very funny, very cool.
Can you talk about what is double bass where drumming is concerned, ladies and gentlemen? Nothing to do with the bass guitar.
I actually started out with a double bass drum set. 2 bass drums instead of 1, and you play them with both of your feet. And I was really into Iron Maiden, even though Iron Maiden's drummer didn't use double bass. But did he? Damn, I can't remember Iron Maiden's drummer. Shame on me. Oh, man. I need some more of this monster drink.
Yeah, go please. Wait, I'm thirsty too, but like I never see podcasters, but I'm like, hell, cheers.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have to have, speaking of monster drinks, does a drummer who's playing double bass generally drink a lot of those caffeinated drinks so that to get them legs going?
No, I only kind of discovered this over the past couple of months. Seems like I'm doing an advertisement. And when I drink Monster,
well, I got my chapstick.
No, I usually don't drink this stuff. I usually drink coffee.
Okay, so coffee, or tea or whatever. But like to get, I mean, I don't know if people realize how fast legs are moving when they're playing double bass, right?
Yeah, well, one thing I realized, that I have to do before each show is eat a meal, because it requires a lot of mental and physical energy in order to play these shows. And even to play any kind of show, playing a show with you, I realize you have to have your proper energy. So you should eat before you play. At least I do. And as far as the double bass is concerned, I started out playing double bass drums because I thought it was cool. It looked cool. And I had, an 8-inch tom, 10-inch tom, 12-inch, 14-inch, and 16-inch toms. And I thought I was a Black Neil Peart back then. Peart, excuse me. And I
You are, guys. I've played with Clayton. He's a badass drummer. I mean, he's got the funk, he's got the pocket. I mean, even more than that, but yeah, go.
So I used to, play all that stuff, and it was, the drummer for Journey I was really into too, Steve Smith, and he had a double bass drum set, and a lot of black drummers didn't have that, so I kind of stood out by having a
Why
double
is it a
bass.
black thing? Why? Because of it starting in metal music, which was not a black rooted music, right? Is that why?
Right. Well, usually, I mean, Louis Bellson I think he was the first drummer to have double bass, and that was in big band music. So I think maybe, I don't know if Gene Krupa did too, but I know Louis Bellson was one of the first. And, there were other ones in the, I know that as far as black drummers using double bass, I can't remember all of them, but I know that Billy Cobham was one of the more prominent drummers that used double bass. And there, of course, have been some in the 70s, and a lot of people were using it, especially in the 80s. But as far as being in Manchester, Connecticut, and having a black drummer in general, there weren't very many of us. But in Hartford there were. But as far as having someone be able to play metal music and play double bass, I was kind of a unique figure back then. But it's something that I don't do anymore. In fact, I was teaching a drum lesson the other day, and drummer that I was teaching was playing on his kit, and I was sitting behind another drum set that was in the studio that he allowed me to sit behind, and it was a double bass kick drum set. So I was just playing around with it. It's like, oh, I haven't done this in a decade or so. It's fun to play. It's not easy and it's difficult, but it's something that can be used in different music. You know what I should do?
So I guess it's not really necessary. It's just, it became something just kind of a show off kind of thing. Like yeah.
Well, I don't
Like, it's
know
not necessary. Double bass is not really necessary, is it? No.
not for all music, but for today's, metal music, that's all it is. It's double bass. It's really fast.
Really? Oh, I had no idea. I was
Oh
just
my
thinking
God.
like progressive rock, like those groups, Yes, and Marillion, and all those things that came out of England.
Yeah, and Genesis, when Genesis first started, they were a progressive rock group too, and they didn't really, I don't think, really had double bass in their music. It's not, to me, it's not really necessary. It's an added soundscape, I guess, if you want to put it that way. But I think if I were to play double bass now, I would create. This is going to be a running theme of this podcast. I'm going to create a band. I'm going to use double bass, and we're going to play trap music. It's going to be better.
How trap music needs double bass. I'm telling you, Clayton Craddock, trap music needs double bass. You won't mind.
Yeah, that should be like an editorial. I'm gonna put that in the New York Times.
I don't mind. Let me ask you, I mean, I could talk to forever about you. I could talk to you forever about me, you, us. Let me ask you about, for people that might not be aware, who understand about piano tuning and guitar tuning and stuff like that. Now I feel kind of foolish. I'm sure they know that bass needs to be tuned, but can you please tell me and our viewers, how do you tune a drum kit? Like, and do you tune it to middle C? I mean,
It's funny you say that, because I've never been an expert on drum tuning. I make sure that there's lugs that connect the drum head to the rim to the shell. So you have the drum head and you have the rim that goes around the drum head that connects to these things called lugs, which pulls down the rim and tightens the drum head. Man, it's the first time I've ever like explained that to anyone.
Man, I don't even know. Okay, I know the key.
Yeah, the drum key.
The skin. What is it made out of? Like lamb? I mean,
Well, they used to have lamb skin heads and other kind of drum heads, but now it's pretty much plastic. They have different widths of the heads. They used to have heads, but some heads are double ply. Some have rings around the edges to dampen the overtones.
whoa.
But pretty much you have the drum head, you have the rim that clamps onto the drum head, which pulls the drum head tightened by using the lugs, and you use the drum key to tighten the lugs so that the drum head will emit a sound that is of course it has to resonate the shell and also interact with the bottom drum head. So there's kind of a science to whether the shell is larger or smaller, whether the head has one ply or two plies, if it's thicker, if it's made of a certain type of plastic, and what kind of rim that you're going to use. There's all kinds of things that go into it. Of course, it's the stick that you're going to use and what kind of sound that you want to get out of it. I'm not a gearhead. I don't know all of that stuff, but all I know is I would like to make the drum sound like have a certain resonance that sounds good to me. And when I tune my drum heads in the show or on stage, I want to make sure that the drums sound good as a unit. Sometimes when I start tuning my drums at the show, the music director says, "Oh, you have like F, G, and A, whatever note those are. I can't tell you what."
And you didn't do it intentionally; it just came out like that.
Correct. It's just
Whoa.
it's like a chord.
Yeah.
And because that chord sounds good to me, and sometimes you can tune them higher, tune them lower. Certain music requires a higher tuning.
But relative to each tom, let's say,
Correct.
they should be in tune.
Yes.
Not necessarily relative to like the music that you're playing or the gig that you're on, but within the drum kit itself, they should be in tune. So maybe another podcast we can talk about that. I don't know why I am so fascinated and interested in it, but I really am, because I feel like it's kind of physics or whatever, but blah, blah, blah. Could you please give me your socials so that we can put this, when we put this up, people will be able to come to your house and, you know.
My social security number is 128. Oh, I'm sorry. You can reach me on Twitter at Clayton Craddock. That's ClaytonCraddock. Same thing with Instagram at Clayton Craddock. My website, www.claytoncraddock.com. And from there, you can find my Broadway Drumming 101 podcast, which is hosted on Substack, which is a great, great place for people who have independent thoughts.
Well,
Shari,
that's wonderful. Clayton, and you must be, well, you're not from Canada, but I always thought it was Craddock, but you say Craddock.
Yeah, you could say it either way.
Right. Okay. Neil Peart and Clayton Craddock. Next, we're going to talk about you and I having played. I know we played a few gigs. You had, well, we'll save it for another time. I want to wish you a very happy new year and health and happiness and prosperity and all of that stuff for you and your children and your extended family. And I want to thank you again for coming on to Soundproof. And we're going to check out all of your stuff. Like the minute we get off, we're going to run over and see.
Well, thank you for having me on. I can't wait to hear how this turns out. And
man, I want this to be the first one. We're going to see what strings I can pull.
All right.
Anyway, Thank you, and God bless you, Clayton Craddock.
Thank you, Shari Pine. We will talk soon.
Okay, great. See you.